In this video, we're going to cover how to draw the top view of your board for a cruiser type of board, which is asymmetrical from nose to tail. There's another video for drawing a street style, more symmetrical skateboard, meant more for tricks. You can watch that video if you're interested in making that shape. Otherwise, if you're interested more in a cruising and transportation style shape, this is the video for you. So the first thing I want is my sketch, and this is definitely not the best, clearest sketch, but I can get the information I need from it. Normally I draw this out by hand. It's a lot easier, but for the purposes of this video, I created this in Paint so I can quickly pull it up for reference. So what we have here is a cruiser style board. It's got a kicktail that is 6 inches long. Its wheelbase is 13 inches. And then it's got a nose which is 2 inches long. Also, the width is 7¼ inches wide at the widest spot. The first thing I'm going to do in DraftSight is create a rectangle that has the length and the maximum width of my skateboard. But if you notice, I don't have a width shown here. Or sorry, I don't have a length shown here. I do have the width. I'm missing the length. We can easily calculate that because we know what the gap is between the bolt holes on our nose and tail. So this distance from here to here in both spots is going to be 2.125 inches. So we can quickly add that all up. So 6, which is our tail length, plus 2.125, plus 13 inches, which is our wheelbase, plus another 2.125 at the nose for those bolts. And then lastly, the nose length, which is 2. So our board length is 25.25 inches. So I'm going to write that down. And I'm going to make a rectangle that is 25.25 by 7.25. Next, I'm going to draw a line that cuts through the middle of this rectangle by snapping to the midpoints of the left and right sides. And the reason I'm doing that is because we're only going to make half of the skateboard. We're only going to make the top half. We're going to then mirror that half so that we get a whole skateboard without having to draw the same thing twice. So it's a nice shortcut we can do. Next, I'm going to draw some reference geometry. And what reference geometry is it's just lines and other shapes I'll draw and later delete simply for making it easy to put in the features I really care about. So what that means is I'm going to make a line at my tail length and a line at my nose length. So I'm going to make a line that's 6 inches from the right side and a vertical line that's 2 inches from the right side. So I think I might have misspoke there. 6 inches from the left side and 2 inches from the right side. So I'm going to start at this point. I'm going to go out 6 inches, so at 6,0. Down here. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the nose, but change it for the appropriate dimension. So that was 2, so I'm going to go at -2 because I'm going to the left, 0, and snap to here. Alright, the next thing I need to do is make the geometry for my bolt holes. And again, we're missing another piece of information. We don't know the width of the bolt holes, what that bolt pattern distance is. So we actually do have that information though. So this distance right here is 1.625. And since we're cutting through the middle of this, we're going to make a line that goes only half this distance up. So we need to calculate what 1.625 divided by 2 is. So 0.8125. And if that doesn't make sense just right now, you'll see how that basically gets doubled when we mirror the object. So let's create a line that starts here and then goes up 0.8125. And it's going to go out 2.125. And I'm going to do the same thing, a mirror image of it on the nose line. Next, I can position my bolt holes, and I'm going to use a circle tool, and I'm going to dimension that with the 3/16 inch standard diameter of bolt holes. And a nice little helpful tool we can use here, instead of making 4 unique circles, we can use the copy paste function. So if I click on this circle and then type copy into the command window, hit enter, it'll ask me to specify a from point. So that's just going to be the middle of the circle. And now you can see I basically grabbed that circle in the middle and I could make copies, and I'm basically using that from point as my snap point. So I'm going to put one here at the end of this line. I'm going to put one here and then a final one here. I can hit escape to get out of that, and then I can delete this initial reference geometry. Next, I need to make the curved part of the board. I'm actually going to hold off. There's one more thing I'm going to do before I do that, which is make the flat side of the tail. I'm going to take care of all the flat edges first. So if you notice, our tail has some flatness right here. The edge of the board is flat. And this is really up to you. Of course, all these dimensions are up to you, except for the bolt pattern dimensions. But I'm going to say that I want it 4 inches wide in the back here. So in that case, I'm going to come up 2 inches from this point. And there's actually another kind of a straight edge that I'm going to use here, which is from this corner right here, which is rounded. We're going to take care of that roundedness later. But this line basically right here, this is basically a straight line up until this point. So let's make that just a simple straight line. And I can position that really wherever I want. I'm going to use the E track and E snap to find a good spot for that. And I could always change this later. And lastly, I'm going to use the spline tool to basically finish off this curve. And if you don't know how the spline tool works, there's a separate video just on how to use that, so you can practice and watch that video before you get started with your board. I'm going to turn off the E snap and E track. And I'm going to make several points. I'm going to start with just 3 points and see where this gets me. For the start tangency, I'm going to be horizontal, and the end tangency is going to be vertical. And so far this is looking pretty not good, but thankfully we can adjust it. It might take a little bit of playing around for you to kind of get the shape you're looking for. And you know what? I'm not a big fan of this straight line here. you know, it looks a little off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace that with another spline. I'm going to leave it in place for right now though. So I selected the spline tool, turn my E-snaps back on. I'm going to use 2 points, and then I'm going to place the final point. Start tangency is again going to be horizontal, and the end tangency is going to be vertical. Let me get rid of this straight line, so I click on that and hit delete on my keyboard. And this is starting to look a little bit better. Actually, that looks just about right. So let's go ahead and delete some of the reference geometry to clean this up a bit. Next, I'm going to select this entire drawing, everything I've created, and then deselect the horizontal line that cuts through the future middle of it. Right now it's not the middle of it because I only have a shape on one side. I deselect by holding down Shift on my keyboard and then clicking on the item I want to deselect. Next, I'm going to type in mirror into the command window. There is a tool for mirroring off to the right side here. I just have a habit of typing it in, hit enter. So if we look at the command window, it says to specify the start point of our mirror line, and the mirror line is the axis about which we mirror our object. So it's basically going to be the future center line of our object, and we just happen to have that drawn already. So I'm going to turn my E-snap back on and select the left point and then the right point, because now it says to specify the end point of the mirror line of that center line. Now it's asking me in the command window, delete source entities. I do not want to delete the initial parts I selected because that would just leave me with the other half of the board. So I'm going to hit no because I want to keep the original entities. And I type N because the N in no is underlined in that prompt. And now I can go ahead and delete this line. And now I have my cruiser board. So good luck with creating your board, and have fun and play around with the spline tool to get your shape just right.